Okay, let's start kind of talking through this piece here. So, who would the population be in this particular scenario? All the AP students. All the AP students at East Kentwood, yes. Assuming that she teaches all of those AP students, because the way it's written, it does make it seem like she's only interested in her students. We're assuming that she has all of the AP Stats students at this school. What would the parameter be? Yes, the true average or the true mean AP Stats score at East Kentwood specifically. The mean AP exam score at East Kentwood. So what would the sample be? The 10 students that were selected. And what is the statistic? Close, not mu, because that would be the true average. X bar equals 3.8. That 3.8 came from our sampled students, not from the entire AP Stats student body at East Kentwood. All right. Rival High School had a mean of 3.11 last year. There are two possible explanations for why the sample mean from East Kentwood, that 3.8, is greater than 3.11. What is one possible reason for why the sample had a higher average than the rival high school? What's one possible reason? Yes. We're looking for HO and HA. I like the way you're thinking, though. So the two possible explanations would be our HO and our HA here. So what would the HO be? That there's no difference, or that East Kentwood's average is actually what? What are we comparing this to? We have two numbers that we're comparing. What are the two numbers that are being compared? 3.11 and 3.8. Which one of those would be the sample statistic, the X bar? 3.8. So I'm not going to use that for my HO or my HA. That's what we got from the sample. I'm going to use that to help me come up with what the HA is. So I'm writing the HO and the HA about that 3.11. So one of the possible explanations for why the sample statistic came out to be 3.8 is that East Kentwood's mean AP Stats test score is equal to or less than 3.11, and what we saw here was just a fluke. The sample results of 3.8 is just natural variation. So the HO is that the true average, mu, is equal to 3.11. Or I could do less than or equal to. I would accept either one of those, equal to or less than or equal to. But you have to include that equal to component there. What is the other possible explanation, or what is our HA? If that 3.8 is not just a fluke, East Kentwood really does have an average of an overall better AP score than rival high school. So East Kentwood mean AP Stats score is more than 3.11, or my HA would be that mu is greater than 3.11. So either East Kentwood has the same or worse AP exam score, or it's better on average. Those are our two possibilities. We are going to run a simulation now. I have a list of AP exam scores on page 5 in your packet that come from a population whose true mean is 3.11. So we are going to assume that number 1 is true. The true mean for East Kentwood is 3.11. We're going to find the probability that a sample of 10 students would give an X bar of 3.8 purely by chance. So this would be the probability that what we saw with that 3.8 average is just natural variation. That's totally normal, totally expected. So you are going to need a graphing calculator so you can get a random number generator. You either want to do random int or rand int no repeat. Rand int no repeat would probably be the best choice here. I want you to look at page 5 in your packet. How many students total do we have data for? How much? I just didn't hear. 253. We have data for 253 students. So we want our random number generator to choose 10 numbers in between what and what? In between 1 and 253. So do you guys remember how to get to the random number generator? Please let me know if you need help finding it. What'd you say? We're going to choose 10. So what you're going to do, just like we've done before when we've done random samples, you're going to have it choose 10 random numbers. Those will correspond to the students. You're going to go find those 10 students, but then what you want to record on these lines here are the AP scores for those 10 students. So you should not have any number bigger than what on this line? There should not be any number bigger than 5 on this line, because the AP scores, if you look at the AP scores, all of those numbers range from 1 to 5. Yes. Yep, I'll come and help you do that. So I want you guys to do that. Find those 10 students. Then I want you to find the average, the X bar. And then I want you to do another random sample of 10. So you're going to do this twice over. I'll come around and help you if you need help. Find an X bar for both samples. So math over to probability. You want random, no repeat. You're going to go from 1 to 253. You want it to choose 10, so your N is 10. You can go through and circle or star these. You can write on this page all you want to. After you find the 10, write down their AP scores on the line. And then I want you to find the average, and then you're going to do this a second time over. Let's see if we can be done with this part in the next 5 minutes. This is part of the sampling distribution of X bar. Remember, the mean for X bar is the mean of the population, and the standard deviation for X bar is the standard deviation of the population divided by the square root of n. What does each one of those dots up there represent? What'd you say? Not 10 samples, but you absolutely got the right idea. We have one sample of 10 students, and this is the average calculated from that sample. That's absolutely correct. One random sample of 10 students and a mean calculated from that sample. Let's calculate. For a school with a mean AP score of 3.11, which is what this data was from, this was from a school with a mean AP score of 3.11, what is the probability that a sample of 10 students gives an X bar value of 3.8 or greater based on the dot plot? So coming over here to the dot plot, I'm going to find 3.8. It'd be right here, right? A little bit over, but I've got a dot there. So I'm looking at that or greater. How many dots meet that criteria? 2. Out of, I just went up here and counted, 36 total. So 2 out of 36. Can somebody grab a calculator for me and do 2 divided by 36? 0.0556. Beautiful. So based on our answer right there to question 6, does East Kentwood's observed result, X bar equals 3.8, give convincing evidence that they have a mean AP exam score greater than 3.11? Explain. What do you think, yes or no? What should we compare our answer to number 6 with? What number should we compare that to? 0.05. So do we have convincing evidence? No. Because 0.0556 is greater than 0.05, we do not have convincing evidence that East Kentwood has a mean AP stats score greater than 3.11. You guys ready to flip it over? Let's take it over to the back side and wrap things up. So when we're writing our hypotheses, mu is going to be the true mean. Make sure you give context, so the true mean of whatever. You have to include the mu here. If you just write the word parameter and you write true whatever, you're not actually telling me what variable you are using that represents that true mean. And then later you use it in different places on the page, so you have to tell me what that mu is meaning in context. Our null hypothesis is always going to be that mu is equal to whatever the null value is, whatever it is that is being claimed at the beginning. And then we have three possibilities for the alternative hypothesis. We have that mu is less than the null value, mu is greater than the null value. Those would both be one-sided tests. Or we have simply that mu is not equal to the null value, in which case we have to include both tails. So that would be a two-sided test. Writing a full conclusion for a significance test. We did not write a full conclusion on the previous page. Remember, there's two parts. You have to interpret the p-value, and then you have to make a decision in context. So interpreting the p-value, assuming the HO is true, that mu is really equal to whatever, there is a p-value probability of getting an X bar of blank or more extreme purely by chance. And that's what this number right here was. This was our p-value. Normally, we don't find the p-value using simulation. Normally, we will use our calculators to do the p-value. We did a p-value with simulation today. And then we're always going to be comparing our p-value to our alpha level. Please keep in mind that alpha level and confidence level are the same, are not the same thing. They're related to each other, just like exponents and roots are related to each other, but they're not the same. So you can't use an alpha when we're doing confidence levels, and we don't say that we have a confidence level when we're doing hypothesis testing, when we should have an alpha. So we're either going to reject or fail to reject. If we have convincing evidence, then we will reject the null. If we do not have convincing evidence, then we will fail to reject the null. This evidence will either be convincing in favor of the ha, or we don't have convincing evidence in favor of the ha. We will never find convincing evidence for the ho. We don't look for, nor do we find convincing evidence for the null hypothesis. That is just assumed to be true unless we can bring evidence that something else is true. All right. Let's look down. I have to check your understanding. There are 4 parts to this. I would like for you guys to spend about 5 minutes answering those 4 questions, and then we'll go through them. Question number 1's not a trick. You should be able to look back at some of the stuff that we did on the previous side to help you with question number 1. What would the HO be here? Mu equals 3.11. Yes. What's the HA? Mu is greater than 3.11. And before we can go on to any other questions, you have to tell me what you mean by mu. This is why we have to define the parameter and why you have to use that specific symbol. We just said mu is equal to or mu is greater than. What do we mean by mu? Yes. The true mean AP Stats score for all East Kentwood students. For all East Kentwood students. Does this teacher's results provide some evidence for the alternative hypothesis? Not asking if it's convincing. I'm just asking if there is some evidence for it. Yes. Why? 3.8 is greater than 3.11. Absolutely. The X bar is bigger than the claimed average, so we at least have some evidence here that it could actually be bigger. And then in number 3, says the teacher performed the significance test and obtained a p-value of 0.014. Interpret the p-value. So I just want to know what this 0.014 means in context. Assuming the HO is true. And what was the HO again? mu equals 3.11. Yes. Assuming the HO is true, mu equals 3.11. There's a 0.014 probability of getting an X bar of 3.8 or greater purely by chance. That's interpreting the p-value. This is part of the conclusions that we write when we do tests. First, you have to explain what that p-value even means, and then we need our decision and our conclusion in context. The decision is to reject or fail to reject. The conclusion is because we do have convincing evidence or because we don't have convincing evidence. And then we couch all of that in the context. So with a p-value of 0.014, would we reject or fail to reject? We would reject. And so we do or do not have convincing evidence. We do have convincing evidence that the mean AP Stats score for East Kentwood is greater than 3.11. So interpret P, compare your alpha level to your P to reach your decision, make your conclusion, make sure you have context. So far, so good? All right. Tomorrow, we will run through all 4 C's to do a hypothesis test for a mean. The homework is due on Friday. Homework is due on Friday. If you would like one of the 4C scaffolding papers, I still have plenty of these available in the back in that blue organizer. So the question on the front and the question on the back, which have multiple parts, both ask you to do a significance test along with answering other questions. So if you would like some extra room, you can do it on a separate sheet of paper, or you can grab a 4C template from the back of the room and do it on there. You are welcome to go ahead and get started on that homework, and I am happy to answer any questions that you guys might have about it.